Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. The draft is a week away. Today, we've got some scalding hot takes.
Hey, Sam plans on digging up some bad takes that we've had recently, and my takes are like the mushroom. You cannot kill me in a way that matters.
That segment got canceled, by the way.
I
win
Luke
again!
Braun of Locked On Vikings, deeply disappointed. That's it.
Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. Yeah, 7 days, 8 hours, 10 minutes until draft day. Extra crispy draft takes coming up for the Vikes.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
What's up? Welcome in on a Thursday. It's the Minnesota Football Party on Locked On Sports Minnesota, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first watch or listen on this Thursday, 1 week from the draft. For your second listen, and you should be listening every day to Luke Braun, really, as we get ready for the draft. It's great daily Vikings content. You get our audio on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. It's free. It's available. It's wherever you get your podcasts. You met the Lukes. You met Arif. And again, I'm Sam Ekstrom. Hot draft takes today on the show, plus players that the Vikings could pick that might feel like they are at superfluous non-positions of need. Any players that are worth that in the first round. Ron Johnson joins as well, and we'll set the table for Luke Braun's Day 3 live broadcast 9 days from now. He's shaking in his boots, folks. He's had an off-season to prepare for this, to be anxious about this, to stress about this, because he was not a good gambler during the regular season. The hour is coming nigh for him to deliver.
Hours, he might even say.
On his punishment. Or basically, yeah, I mean, Luke Inman probably has the exact count of how many hours we have until the draft. It's brought to you today by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. I don't want to hesitate. I don't want to wait. I want crispy, as Luke Inman said, draft takes from you guys for the Minnesota Vikings. So Luke Inman, give me something crispy, extra crispy, if you will.
Here's my 3 crispy draft takes for the Vikes this year.
Give us one,
I'll just wrap it.
Yeah. No. I need all 3 because I didn't bring any. I don't have draft takes. I'm not even sure.
I can either unveil all 3 and we can go through each one rapid fire, or I can just start with one. What do you want?
Give me one, because odds are we might have some overlap. Give us one, and we'll circle back.
Obviously, everybody thinks, oh, Spicy, what if they traded up? I don't think there's anybody to really trade up for in this class that makes sense. Plus, you're probably eating in next year's class, draft picks-wise as well. So I don't think that's what anybody wants to do. What if they just traded out altogether at 24? And, okay, you now you have 2 first-round picks. It'd probably be somebody from the top of round 2. So a Giants, a Browns, a Panthers, a Patriots. Now you got 2 firsts next year, one of them hopefully in the top 10, you would think. That's the game plan anyways. You get some extra day 3 picks this year. We've already talked so much, guys, about how at pick 24, whoever they get, probably going to be a depth guy to start anyways. They filled so many holes in free agency. You get 2 or 3 extra picks this year on day 3. You stockpile those. You throw some darts in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. Hopefully you can hit on 1 or 2 of those guys. But now this time next year, you're loaded. You're stacked with ammo, and you can go a multitude of directions with those 2 first-round picks.
So the spiciness is that somebody's giving you that one next year because they want.
Yeah, we're not trading down to like 38 or 40, right? Here's my first-round pick. You're going to give me your 2026 first, but then I need something to wet my whistle this year, though, too. So maybe a couple day 3 picks there as well. So you're not just trading down 10 spots and getting an extra 3rd and maybe a 5th or 6th. You're trading out. Here's my 24, and now we're not picking for a while, but we're stocked up next year. Maybe next year again, we have a little bit better idea of what those needs are after we get a full year of JJ McCarthy.
Well, next year you also have no cap space, so you need to have draft picks. And what if it all comes to fruition? What if Luke is correct? The spiciness comes to fruition. All the comp picks hit. So like Shaquille Griffin gets signed and Trent Sherfield is the top receiver for the Broncos, and the Vikings get 4 comp picks and they have 12 draft picks next year. Maybe that's the scenario.
That would be a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like the Vikings trading out of the first is like one of the most likely outcomes. Is about it. This take is as hot as my first wing from last year. It's pleasant, even. It's a nice take. I would like to see that happen.
Getting a first though, Braun, is that? I mean, that's crazy wheeling and dealing in spicy fashion.
Yeah, you're going down to like the middle. Like you're going down a lot to do that. But with this draft,
how to make the market move in his favor. And
true.
Yeah, like
he's
that
learning and
is a
growing.
possibility, right? That he gets a team to wildly overpay. Maybe, I don't know, the Saints. To get that extra.
Maybe have done that before. Marcus Davenport. Okay.
Let me give you one that I think people are really going to get mad at me about.
More
for the Vikings,
already mad at you and Pat, by
not uploading Locked On Vikings this morning.
That has been rectified. Okay, that's been fixed. All right. Sometimes you click the wrong day when you get a little confused at 2 a.m. about what tomorrow is. It happens. Okay, leave me alone. My hot take that everyone's going to get mad at me about is that Malachi Starks and Nick Emenwari would not be good picks at 24. And while I don't think any safety is just worth it, I just don't like any of them. The one that I would be the least mad at is actually Andrew Makuba.
Yeah, you like Makuba.
Yeah, and I don't.
Would you accept Nick Emenwari at 40 in a trade back, or we're just
absolutely
not at all?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
So you like him. You
at
like
30,
him, you don't like him 24.
Right.
Well, I mean, like,
and I feel the same about Starks.
Every player take is except for a rare few. Every player take is really about price, right? Like when we say we like or dislike a player, it's about where we expect that player to go or how much.
Except for Deion Walker, who I do not think should be drafted.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. For a second,
There's no price for that. Okay, that's not an NFL player.
For a second, I thought you said David Walker, and I was like, "Hey, man, be nice." He's a Central Arkansas edge rusher. He's fine. My take actually has very little to do with the Vikings, and it's more just the draft class. I think that the linebacker group is underrated. I think this is like a really, really good linebacker group that literally no one I've seen like talk about it. Like there's like one projected first round linebacker, and I think that's more a product of the fact that linebackers have been devalued by NFL front offices, fairly or unfairly. And so we're not seeing as many first round guys. But I think if you take this class, like this group of linebackers, and put them in a class where linebackers were valued maybe like they were 10 years ago, you can't put these linebackers into the class 10 years ago because they're too small. But in terms of the value proposition, I think we might see 2-3 go in the first round. I really like these guys. I mean, aside from Jihad Campbell, who I like a lot, I think Carson Schweishner was really good. I think Chris Paul Jr. is really good. I think Danny Stutzman is pretty good. I think Smail Mondon from Georgia is really good. Like, I think that these are a really solid group of linebackers. And then there's a couple of like edge players that are reasonable candidates to be converted. Now, usually that doesn't work. Not everybody's an Anthony Barr, but like it's a consideration given how many undersized edge rushers there are in this class too.
I mean, I think the Lions are destined to take Jihad Campbell somehow because they have Dan Campbell, they have Jack Campbell. They're just loading up on.
True.
Yeah, and they really don't care if they have a player or 8 at a position. The positional value does not matter to them.
No,
does not. No. Yeah, guards.
Yeah, they'll be like, hey, no, we took a good football player, and if he needs to play tight end, he'll do it. And you're like, all right, okay.
I feel like it's kind of a Ravens move. It's like that's the Ravens always get that defender that's like the far and away best guy in the class, but he falls because everybody's prioritizing something else.
Right.
Why is Ed Reed falling in our lap at 27, 28?
Yeah,
I mean,
Jack Campbell
so many
does
years
have that kind of. I know a lot of people have like locked him into the Buccaneers, and like sure that makes a lot of sense for like 8 million reasons. Yeah. But like it would not shock me if the Ravens just like fell backwards. They fall backwards into a bunch of great players, right?
All the time, yeah.
Yeah. and which is like, I think that's a skill. Like, good job to the Ravens. I'm not knocking them for, taking advantage of what, luck has provided for them. But yeah, that'd be good. Oh, but yeah, like Burrito Bill asked about Jack Kaiser. Yeah, I like Jack Kaiser. He's really good. So this is a good linebacker.
Do you think there's an argument for Jihad Campbell falling specifically because there's so many other good linebackers that like nobody has to clamor to get the guy?
Like we can get a good guy later, 2 rounds later, and use this pick.
Like if
on a
NFL
more
teams are on the
important
same
position.
page as you on this, would they like maybe not be as
perhaps
competitive about him?
I think the thing about Campbell is that you can ask him to do anything, which I'm not confident is true of all of these linebackers. Like I'm pretty confident you could ask Carson Schwarzenegger to do a lot. And he's plug and play, like, I mean, to the extent that any rookie is plug and play, like I could just be wrong about how ready he is. Right. But to the extent that like the scouting report suggests he'd be plug and play, like I think there's enough there, but I think the real reason he's going to fall is I think he had a shoulder surgery or something recently. That's probably going to hurt him. But yeah, I mean, that's a consideration. I think that given how many linebackers here can cover all kinds of ground for you, just in terms of responsibilities that you ask for them, like, yeah, you could fall for that reason.
Here's my spicy take. I think Colston Loveland is going to have a more productive career than Tyler Warren, and I would embrace the Vikings taking Colston at 24.
A lot of that with pass catchers
I don't follow.
end up being their situation. Who's their quarterback? Although you get a stud like Brock Bowers, and it's like, okay, it doesn't really matter who my quarterback is. But yeah, that would be interesting.
Colston Loveland, number one, McCarthy connection, championship chemistry. This is quarterback in 2023, or he really came onto the scene.
I've seen him get smoked up at the line of scrimmage way too much.
I've seen
Mike
so
Gesicki
many.
Part 2.
It's not a blocking tight end.
I've seen so many receivers and tight ends go to where their quarterback went that it doesn't mean jack. It doesn't help me at all, Sam.
The following year,
hey, Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, Fresno State,
awful quarterback play, and still found a way to produce with like a really bad offense and a really bad quarterback. He's right
again.
Up there.
It's a pricing question.
Yeah.
It's a pricing question. I would be very happy with Loveland later in the draft. Extremely happy.
Let me ask
first
you this.
Round.
Would you take Kyle Rudolph's career again?
In the first round? No.
In the second round where he went? Yes. But Kyle Rudolph blocked very crucially. Colston, where would you take Mike Gesicki if he came out, if he was in this draft?
And he was adamant to let us know that he was trying his hardest.
He was very insistent that he blocked. That's true.
He was very persistent to say, look at what I'm doing, guys. That's why I only have 300 yards this year.
That's why I'm comparing myself to Rob Gronkowski.
Sorry,
Kyle, you're a good player, but sometimes just,
Where would you take Mike Gesicki if he came out right now? Where would he land among this class?
That's a great way to do that.
Because this dude feels very much in like not a great way. Like he's destined to be of limited use in the same way that Mike Gesicki is. Like you want like a 12 personnel bootleg? Not with this guy. You can't run those.
Yeah, I think from a role perspective, I think from like a player comp perspective, it doesn't work. But I know that that's not what you were doing here. Like
assignment wise, like that. That's the usefulness. I'm not trying to like stylistically comp people.
Well, why don't we get him in the weight room and let's put a few pounds on him and give him some coaching and see if he can do. Oh
yeah, you're right. No one's ever really tried that with one of these receiving tight ends before. That's a really.
Let's change everything about him. Then he'd be good.
Yeah.
All right, but
hey, it worked for Josh Oliver, right?
You're good.
He gets in
but
the
we're going to
TCO
change cafeteria
and bulks up with the chef,
the smoothie bar, baby.
Yeah, we got
the culinary
program. All we need is another puff piece on the nutrition department.
Yeah, one scoop of protein. Make it 2.
Just one more.
I ain't driving. Come on now.
Like I can see the Athletic headline now: protein shakes, beef Wellington, and
3 a.m. peanut butter sandwiches. Get them on the Brian O'Neill diet.
Colston Loveland.
No, just call up Ben Barch. Ask how.
That's what it was. Ben Barch. Thank you, Ben Barch. Yes, the most ridiculous, insane.
Someone shared his smoothie with like another like offensive lineman who bulked up like 50 pounds in 1 year, and the other guy was like, "Why? There's no reason to do. Why did he do that?
Why?
No reason to do all of that.
You're fine."
PhD, poor poverty, University of Michigan can't feed and strengthen their tight ends.
Taylor, I just want to be clear. This is a spicy take segment. Yes, I am advocating for.
Yeah, no, this is the best spicy take of all of ours.
Again, if like Tyler Warren goes 14 to the Colts and has to catch passes from Anthony Richardson all year, and Loveland goes to somebody, whatever. I see him mock to the Broncos a lot. Whatever, Chargers.
First round, a Hall of Famer.
He's gonna have better stats than Tyler Warren,
yeah,
for sure. But again, a lot of this is all about value. Team fit though with receivers and tight ends, especially. Some guys can have more production that first year, but when you look at the overarching success or failure of their career over 4, 5, 6, 7 years, like we're doing with Gesicki now, it kind of changes the tune a little bit. But we'll see. I mean, Loveland, I still think goes in the first round. I personally wouldn't love him at 24.
Two things on Warren. Number one, why wasn't he good until last year, like with Drew Aller, same quarterback? And why? What is he hiding? Why isn't he working out? We know that Loveland is, fast as heck.
Didn't Theo Johnson play above him? Wasn't Theo Johnson the number 1 tight end in that Penn State?
Yeah, I think
Warren still had more yardage than him in 23, but it was like
good.
422 yards.
That's good. But you got Theo Johnson probably chewing up a lot of snaps, I would assume.
Yeah, it's a pretty fair point, Luke. It's crazy how Sam didn't think about that one.
Yeah, that's cogent analysis. That's a good job doing your research. So Colston Loveland at 24. Luke Inman, you said you got 2 more spicy takes. Let's hear them.
Well, wide receiver at 24. Again, I don't know. I know I missed a couple of shows last week. I don't know how much you guys have talked about this. I feel like it is a realistic option that they could go. We all like Jalen Naylor, but like if Amika Book, they're clearly all in on JJ McCarthy, right? And that means if you give them another weapon at this point, that's probably something in their wheelhouse that they're thinking or options that they would if they love a guy enough at 24 would hit the green light. But whether it's Igbuka, Ohio State, I think is a little bit better off the line of scrimmage, could feast on those intermediate routes, or the Texas kid Matthew Golden, more of a burner, field stretcher, 4.29, also gives you a lot more as far as kick return, punt return, which I know that's something that's been lacking for the Vikes as well. I feel like either of those guys could be in play at 24. I don't like Luther Burden. He lined up from Mizzou. He lined up in the slot or inside like 85-90% of the time. I just feel like if they do go receiver, it's got to be somebody that can play on the outside and make sure JJ can continue to move inside, outside, and kind of maximize all those best skill sets. So I just don't feel like it's being talked about a ton when I look at mock drafts and fans talking about who we should pick. Receiver, I feel like it could be an option.
I feel like 70% of mock drafts in the last couple of weeks have either given the Vikings Evan Worry or Starks, and like there's just not much conversation outside, which I think is tough because I think quarterback's a bigger need, but like also
feels like Trey Wayne's. Like every mock draft figured it out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, well, I guess we know.
Yeah. I don't love it just because Evan Worry. I don't know. Like Luke has a more developed take on this one, but I think we agree. It's just he doesn't play the way that people perceive how he plays.
Give me Taylor Mays.
Well,
great safety. No, great
I don't think
combine.
He's as athletic as he gets credit for.
Who was the other stud?
I think if he ran the agility drills, he would have had just a pretty good arm. I don't think the agility drills would have gone well for him, and I think that's why he didn't run them.
Yeah,
because and that's a take that I developed when I was watching him. I was like, this dude is not like change of direction is not his strong suit, and that gives him a really small margin of error for like the angles he can take. He doesn't trigger downhill as quickly as some of the other safeties in the class or even corners in the class. And then I looked, I was like, well, what was his agility drill? Oh, he didn't run it. Yeah, well, makes sense.
In my research, agility drills are the most important ones for safeties to succeed in. So that it kind of like, which tracks, I think, right? Like, I think that there's like a lot of change of direction that you have to engage in to be a successful safety, especially given the versatile number of roles that you'll be assigned. Yeah, I don't think that he plays the way that people perceive how he plays. And I think people got kind of ensorcelled by this like 11-foot broad jump, which is nice. It's good to be explosive and uncoil through the hips, but that's like not enough to be a good safety.
Adjacent to the hot take conversation, I want to do this next. Are there players in round 1 that would not have a clear path to play for the Vikings in 2025 that you would still pick? because of their talent. That's next, Minnesota Football Party. We're brought to you today by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game or NHL playoff game. We've got both locally in the coming week at the XL Energy Center and the Target Center. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every goal, every momentum shift feels huge. And with Game Time, you can get in without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting, walking around outside Target Center trying to find someone to give you tickets. No, just handle it on Game Time. The prices go down the closer you get to tip-off or the drop of the puck. There's great last-minute deals. You can buy morning of, day before, hour before, stress-free because it's Game Time. The all-in pricing means there's no surprise fees at checkout. That's critical. Toggle that on. Just take the guesswork out of buying tickets entirely with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Get some savings. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So it might feel hot takey to say the Vikings.
Game Time.
There it is.
Thank you. Right on cue. It might feel spicy takey to say the Vikings should take an edge
Getting sick of this bit.
in the first round. This is the role I play, Luke. I have to be perpetually unimpressed with your jokes.
You say that like it's an obligation and not like a natural reaction.
I never
You're
cultivated.
the guy who goes
sense of humor.
to open mic, stand up, and is like, "That was funny. That was really funny."
How do I start this for a third time in a clever
A
way?
third Game Time.
Dude, let's start the show. Are we starting?
Yeah.
Are
Can
we
we hit
going?
record? Come on, what's going on?
We'll do it live. 3-2. As far as scalding takes go, some would say it's scalding if the Vikings were to take an edge in the first round. They've got 3 of those. Or a tackle. They've got 2 Pro Bowlers there, like interior linebacker. Got Payson Cashman. Are there players, though, that were they to fall, you would be so tempted by their talent, true BPA approach? And I think Kwesi, I think he leans that way, BPA, that you would take regardless. Who stands out?
Jalen Walker, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. And he, I think he fits with it because like there's a couple of edges. Like Micah Williams is really good. I don't know that he fits what the Vikings do, right? Jalen Walker is both quite good and I think can accomplish a lot of the things that are tasked of edge rushers in the Vikings system. But I don't know that that's actually that far removed from a reasonable pick. Like the real reason that that's an issue is just because the Vikings have a couple of not even that many, a couple of glaring needs. But it's not as if that there isn't a path for having a guy like Jalen Walker under contract for 4.5 years, right? Like you've got, Van Ginkel, who he only have 1 year left on his contract. It's not forever, right?
Right.
And so it makes sense. Like there's a path that I think makes sense. It's just, what are you going to do at cornerback? What are you going to like? I think that's fine, but I don't think it's that hot to say that an edge rusher is on the table. It's just less likely.
Well, where are you guys at with Genty? Yay, nay.
I
That
think
is the
he's
name.
outstanding.
That is the ultimate conundrum. And I would probably say,
I mean, they just re-upped Aaron Jones, which I know all these contracts can get out of, but they just
2
traded
years,
for.
yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
he's the game changer that he gets credit for. I think he's just one of these backs that happens every year where he just smokes a bunch of Mountain West guys and we go,
I am worried
what
about
if he's
the
the next
boys.
big thing?
I
think he's good.
he's as good as people generally claim at a narrower set of skills than because I think when he's published something in the Players Tribune, he compared himself to like Saquon Barkley, not necessarily from a playing style perspective, but just like the impact he'll have on an organization. And like the reason that Barkley and McCaffrey are doing the things that they do also involve their contributions in the passing game. And I'm not saying Genty is like bad at that, but like they were elite
Yeah.
at those things.
Yeah,
And
he's a tiny boy in pass pro. He's like I like what he does in pass pro, but he's just a little too small for it to be as effective as you want, and that's just never gonna change. You're just never gonna have. He's just and his size works for him in the run game. My answer to the question, the way you posed it, Sam, is like, is anyone's talent worth it? Is kind of no. There is nobody that I'm like that excited about, and I'm definitely open to the idea. Now I have barely looked at all at the edge rushers, so I won't chime in on that. And if
Luke's
you like
say
hate
no
Dallas
to Will
Turner,
Carter if he falls all the way to 24,
right? Like outside of the really, yeah, outside of unrealistic things.
Yeah.
But like if you just like hate Dallas Turner, if the Vikings are just saving face by saying nice things about him and they're like, yeah, this dude's not going to make it, then edge rusher does immediately become a need because of Van Ginkel's contract.
Right. And and lack of cap space next year. You can't just automatically give him an extension. Maybe, but
so I was going to use this to talk about Luther Burden real quick.
Yeah.
I think he is redundant with Jordan Addison. That's not necessarily an issue. But, a smaller guy that maybe needs a little bit of help with a stack off the release. That's kind of both Jefferson and Addison. The Vikings love to do that with both those guys anyways. So you would kind of exacerbate that problem, which is not a horrible, like, okay, run more bunches. Like, it's not a big deal. But you would basically have to think that Luther Burden is directly upgrading on Jordan Addison to make that draft pick and then do the subsequent thing that makes sense, which is not extend Addison and instead save that money for an eventual Burden extension. That would be nice and efficient, right? You wouldn't be paying him until way further down the line, but you would probably not be able to justify that if he wasn't actually better than Addison. And I don't know if people are like willing to go there.
Yeah.
He's an intriguing prospect just because I think there's more projection with him than there is with a lot of receivers, just because, I mean, the argument, and I think accurately, that everyone is making is that he was not used correctly or appropriately at Mizzou, which, sure, I agree. But we just don't have as much information about the things that he would be asked to do in an NFL offense, given the film, to be confident in our projections. Like, Ted McMillan is going to do the stuff that he was asked to do. There's no question about that. And so the projection there is really just a question of like, hey, does this speed, genuinely translate? Is that enough? Whatever. But for Luther Burden, a lot of people are just going to be like, well, just don't do what Mizzou did. And it's like, okay, I can even believe that the college coaching staff did not maximize this guy, even though it would be, kind of silly that they didn't. But then you have to say, well, then how do we know that he can do what you're asking him to do? And
right.
I don't know.
You just don't know. Seeing is believing. I just looked it up. 86.5% of his snaps in 2024 were inside. And again, to your point, I'm not saying he can't play outside, but like we just haven't seen him get off the line versus jam, press coverage, all that stuff, because they never put him there. So, that one's just a little tough for me. I like Igbuka or even Golden a little bit more. But again, that's not to say in 3-4 years we're not looking back.
I don't like Golden.
That's fine, but we're in 3-4 years. That's not to say that we're not looking back and say Luther Burden, if put in the right scheme and coaches know what they're doing with them and can develop that, outside presence a little bit more. Maybe he ends up being the best one. I don't think Ted McMillan is like a clear-cut number one guy like a lot of people think too. I think he's got some flaws at the next level as well.
Let's get Ron Johnson's opinion. He'll join right now as he does every single Thursday. We'll let him get organized here. And I also am curious, after we talk to Ron too, I want to hear your guys' take on Mikel Williams, because that was a name I had written down. But we'll bring Ron in here. He's at 3 Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show on Tuesdays. He joins us on the Wednesday show, the Thursday show. He does our Gophers postcast, our Vikings postcast. He joined us last year from the live draft party. I imagine that's where he'll be a week from now. Ron, we were just debating the following. Let's get your take. Are there players, or do you think it'd be cool if the Vikings in the first round, they said, well, hey, we've got our edge rushers set. We've got our tackles set. We've got our interior linebackers all set. Like, we have our starters picked out, but there's a player here we just can't resist, and we're going to take them, and they can sit on the bench for a year, and they can be, a reserve, have a redshirt year, if you will. Would you be cool with that as the pick?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, honestly, I don't really I'm literally, so yeah, I will be at the stadium. It is confirmed. I'm in a message thread now with the Vikings. about this, trying to figure out, me and Pete Bursich, I guess, what we're going to talk about. And so they're giving us like information of possibly what to say, what not to say. So yeah, just looking at the text. So looking at what they're telling me, I would feel like that whole take. So you're saying basically get a guy that you know is not going to play, like you're drafting the guy for the future.
Yep.
I feel like if that happens, and again, looking at the messages, it could happen. I feel like the guy they want is gone. And the only way, like I know Luke always says, go get your guys. The problem is when you don't have a lot of capital. If they had 9 picks or 12 picks, like a true Rick Spielman draft, like back in the day when we had 37 picks, when you 17,
a nightmare
rounders.
to cover, a nightmare.
Brutal. What's Dane Brugler say about this guy now? All right.
Back on the clock, the Minnesota Vikings in the 7th round. Oh, wait, the Vikings have another 7th round pick. Wait, they have one more 7th round pick, people. They just traded their 2029 7th round pick for a 2025 7th round pick. They are back in the draft for the 7th round again. Rick Spielman, you have
This
done
is
your-
why I
you've
feel
done
so
the
ready
NHL.
for this day 3
Yeah,
thing.
right, yeah,
Rick
he's
Spielman has been
me
training
for
me my
years.
whole life.
Yeah. Finally get to take the weights off.
So when you look at the lack of draft capital, as I keep hearing Mel Kiper say, the lack of draft capital, I feel like you can't waste that pick on that type of guy. I feel like you have to get what you need. And so looking at offensive guard, looking at a potential tight end, there's some guys that, you know, may or may not be considered first round picks. And again, that's why I say get the capital. If they trade out of the first round, it's going to be sad. But if they know that guy's going to be there on day 2 as a 34, 35, 36 pick, it's like getting Antoine Winfield. It's like getting Dalvin Cook. It's like getting Brian O'Neill. And so if you knew you were going to get and that's for the question I give to you guys too, maybe talk about it after, talk about it now. If you knew you could get Antoine Winfield in the 2nd round, a guy of his caliber, Hall of Famer, future Pro Bowler, would you be so concerned about pick number 24 versus pick 36? And that's why I look at it like that. Like there's a lot.
I don't even need the certainty. I'm happy to go down.
I mean, it's gonna screw up.
Those kind of guys
It might screw up my live shot from the stadium when I call you guys, and you know we don't have confetti falling anymore. But I'm willing to risk that for a better I guess future player. But no, I mean I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just be kind of like, really, because you already have Dallas Turner as that guy right now. I feel like Dallas Turner is the first round draft pick that's waiting in the wings. I felt like JJ McCarthy was potentially that guy too. So I mean, offensive guard, tight end, defensive tackle. I feel like if any of those 3 are there, you have to just go get them now and say, look, you're a plug and play guy. Because at D tackle, you do have veterans, but if you can go get like the kid from Michigan, was it Kenneth Grant?
Yeah.
Then you
that's more of a rotational spot. You can find
Correct.
room. You can find room for a rookie there. Whereas
everybody will play.
Right.
Ron,
Van Ginkel and what's
you.
his name? Sorry, Van Ginkel and Grenard. Yeah, they're not rotating. Like we thought they were going to rotate with what's his name, but no, they're not rotating.
Not a lot.
Yeah, Ron, my question for you: did you just say tight end?
I did say tight end.
Is it like a primary need for the Vikings?
Colston Loveland?
Colston Loveland. No, I mean like again at 24 and true Luke Inman, Luke Spinman, my first videographer. Luke was my first videographer, by the way, people.
Ever.
Stefan
Mankato.
Diggs interview, great job.
And you didn't pull him up with you when you started blowing up, Ron. That's crazy.
I'm sorry.
Never forget, Ron. Come on.
The Stefan Diggs interview was great. I mean, it was funny. Like we found Stefan Diggs before everybody else did. Like me and Luke both knew that day. We're like, you're gonna be a star, man. What are you prepared to do? And he literally was like, yeah, Treadwell, he has no shot at taking my spot. No, he didn't say that. But that'd have been awesome though if we had that on tape.
He was thinking it.
He was thinking it. He didn't say it though. He was
Ron's
thinking
avoiding the tight end question.
No, I'll say yes. I think with what's his name, TJ Hawkinson. Is Josh Oliver under contract still? And I'm always off on that.
He's on a contract year.
Yeah.
So like
first round tight end 2 is a lot.
I'm not saying go right. But like if you think about Kevin O'Connell, what they want to do, is TJ Hawkinson 100% healthy? And that's where if I'm like, if he's not, and Tyler Warren is there, I don't know. I mean, he is, but like maybe it takes a year to come back. Maybe it takes a year to come back and get that mental off your because again, my problem is seeing Adrian Peterson come back from an ACL and just tear the league apart. I feel like TJ Hawkinson came back and was a little bit hesitant.
Hey, that's such a high bar to. What in
It
the
is.
world?
AP.
Isn't his first game back? Didn't he get like 9 catches for like 90 yards against the Jags or something?
Yeah, like
Did he,
8
like he
touchdowns.
converted like 6 third downs in Jacksonville?
And then what happened?
And then Sam Darnold threw an idiot interception every time. But hey, dub's a dub, okay?
But like if Tyler Warren is there again, I think it wasn't Luke. Who do we have yesterday, Sam? Me, you, and Reggie. I think Sam talked about Emeka Ibuka. Like if you can find another weapon on this offense and it's there and there's nothing else you need. I mean, a guy like Tyler Warren, like you really don't need a true blocking tight end in this offense per se. Like, and so if he's there and he happens to fall to 20s, why not go get him? Because then you have leverage of like, well, do we need to keep paying TJ Hockenson all this money? If we need to move on from that contract, put him with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, like it gives you room. But I think offensive guard, defensive tackle are my two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like as a PPA thing, not as like, oh shoot, we got to figure out who the tight ends are.
Oh yeah, no. Just if it's there, like the numbers are there. If Kwesi's crunching numbers and he's looking at that board and they're like, look, nobody's willing to make this. Because I did ask Kwesi, for those that want to know, I did specifically ask him if he ever watched the movie Draft Day. That is one of my favorite movies to watch. And I asked him, and at first he was like, nah, I'm not really a movie guy. And then I told him Black Panther was in it, and he's like, oh. And then I told him the racism storylines of it. He's like, all right, I might have to watch that. And so I asked him too, though, about the, breakfast, road, family, getting text messages from other GMs. He's like, oh yeah, 100%. He's like, we're texting each other nonstop before the draft, during the draft. He's like, it is what it is. He said, you actually have, he didn't say this. Sorry. Somebody else said this. There's actually like group chats of GMs that don't have other GMs in the group chat. Like it's like, the Bengals and the Bears and the Vikings have a group chat and they're making fun of the Packers. It's just like
Ryan Poles that can't be in our group chat, something like that.
Well, you've got the 4 of everybody. You've got all 4 of them in the same group chat, and then you've got the 3 without Ryan Poles. In a separate group chat.
Right.
Like, did you see who he just drafted?
Can you believe what he just said?
But
Draft Day is basically a documentary.
It is because when I looked at it and I talked to another GM and another coach, actually I talked to Chuck Pagano about this too. A lot of these whatever they're called filmmaker guys, they actually, they're rich. So they go out to like training camps, they go out to stuff, they talk to, they pay insiders, quote unquote, to give them some intel to make their movie. And then they always try to say like, but I won't make it look like it came from you. But he's like, dude, if you actually look at some of the storylines, you can probably figure out who really gave this intel, because it's like a little too close to home with like stealing draft picks or suckering a guy in the draft and somebody high or a quarterback falling.
The playbook story is like a classic that actually happened with Matt Millen and the LSU quarterback.
First round quarterback.
LSU. Not Rohan Davey. Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, Jamarcus Russell. Like that just happened. So like that straight up is a thing that happened, and they just put it in the movie.
So clearly there's some, but Kwesi did say he's like, if I get a chance, I'm gonna try to watch Draft Day, because I'm more so talking about T'Challa, the Black Panther, as the linebacker getting the racist take of like, bad apple, blah, blah, got kicked out of a game, not realizing his sister had cancer. Sorry for those that haven't seen the movie, but, I talked about that. And then about the quarterback slipping, and everybody assuming he's a great guy because he's supposed to be a first-round pick. I mean, Ryan Leaf. The
birthday party.
Taking him anyway. Correct. Yeah. Yep. So we talked about that a little bit, but that's when I look at like Kwesi sitting there texting his friends. Nobody wants that pick. And he's like, well, who's out there? All right, let's go get this guy. And then you just do it.
Quick breaking news item. Let's play the sound. Rodgers is going on McAfee today. Ron, what do you think he's going to say regarding his team of the future? Or is it a retirement announcement?
I don't know if it's a retirement announcement. It's going to be tongue in cheek. It's going to be, I can do what I want to do now because the Jets can't control me. And then I think he's going to talk about Kevin O'Connell and those conversations with the Vikings. He's going to try to ham it up a little bit. I think he's going to be super positive about his conversations with Kevin O'Connell so that gets out, because that's going to be all over the Twitter sphere, X sphere, whatever, today. And I think that's his goal too, to put his best foot forward, not say anything stupid, show teams he's serious and committed to being on somebody's team. But I think maybe kind of saying like, hey, look, man, I'm willing to wait. And, I really want to be on this team, blah, blah, like I think that's going to be. No, I don't think it's. I personally don't think it's a retirement, but who knows? But I don't think he would retire on Pat McAfee.
Kwesi just spoke, did his pre-draft presser, and he said the delay in adding QB depth, quote, hasn't only been about the comp pick situation, which would mean it could be contract related with whoever they're talking to. I don't know. I don't know. I'm
Draft related. If you want a hot take,
Yeah, I think it's probably
Vikings take a
related
quarterback.
I don't know about taking a quarterback, although that would be very funny and would give us
At some
endless
point.
amounts of content. Yeah, they could, if they signed an undrafted quarterback that ended up being somebody that people who they recognized, we would have endless content, even though there was no investment in it. Speaking
Shedeur
of
Sanders.
Shedeur, perfect.
Riley Leonard, Vikings backup.
I don't know if Luke Inman asked a question. I'm going to skip his place in line. So let's. Are there any mid to late round quarterbacks that you like that could be reasonable additions? You could go for an old veteran like Tyler Shuck, or you could go for an actual rookie later in the draft. What do you think?
Wait, so just rookies period, or sorry.
I was making fun of Tyler Shuck's age.
Okay.
But are there any quarterbacks in the draft that mid late rounds you think would be valuable additions for the Vikings?
Max Brosner, maybe.
Valuable is a strong word when it comes to quarterbacks. Here, let me look at my list real quick. So, like, what the Vikings, for those that don't know, like on Vikings.com, what we do every year, they give us a list of names. We can't really say the list. They want us to look at the list, basically study the list. And these are guys that the Vikings coaches have bought in on 30 visits. One name I can't say, Jack Henderson. He had a conversation with the Vikings. I don't know if he's a draft pick. That's more of a Brian Flores thing. Flores was spending a little bit of extra time with him at the Gophers deal. So that's like a name that comes up like, hey, what do you think about Jack Henderson? And it's just for us to be prepared so that when that pick happens and then we have to jump, because what we do is after every pick, we jump on camera and then Vikings.com runs it. And then boom, and we kind of give our draft thoughts about this kid. And so they don't want us to like scramble. So I kind of have a book. I have notes in my phone. I have like a little binder. And so when I look at the quarterbacks, here's some names. Now, I'm not saying Vikings are getting them. I'm just saying if they were to be able to get a guy like this, not saying they can, but maybe. I like Jalen Milroe. I like Quinn Ewers. I don't even know how to say his name right. Kyle McCord is the one. So Kyle McCord for me is a guy that's falling. But when he was in college, there was questions at Ohio State. Then he goes to Syracuse. I'm not saying he's a potential NFL starter. I do think he reminds me of like Jim Sorgi, from Wisconsin. Could be a great backup to Peyton Manning for years. Not saying J.J. McCarthy is Peyton Manning, but just saying.
It's okay. You could say it.
Yeah, say go.
But just
go
saying,
ahead.
Kyle
best
McCord.
backup job
I'm
in the
willing
world,
to hear
by the
it.
way. Peyton Manning. We got Peyton Manning.
But if somehow, like, let's say a guy like Dylan Gabriel, if he was 6'2", 6'3", he'd be a first round pick. He's only 5'11", and that's what scares me about him a little bit. His offense with Oregon, moving out the pocket. How old is Tyler Shutt?
He's like 26.
Is he? He's big though. But
He's had time to grow.
Metabolism slows down, Ron, when you get old like that.
ate his vegetables. So not, I mean, like, I don't like, it doesn't feel like what is he, 219th? Or what? No, 157. 218 is Riley Leonard. Like, I could see those two. Like Riley Leonard, like, again, older guy, not say a veteran presence, but it does feel like a veteran presence. Like, there's not a name, like, it would have to be a name, like, and maybe I just know too many guys like Graham Mertz, Max Brosmer. Like, I would love Max Brosmer to be a pickup of the Minnesota Vikings. Like, I've watched him. He's smart, Ivy League kid, Ivy League brain, lower level school kid, comes to Minnesota, has a great year, kind of impresses the scouts. Like a name like that, I don't know if it moves the needle nationally, but I feel like Minnesota fans would get behind it as a QB3, potentially maybe QB2, but who knows? But yeah, there's no name that jumps out to me that I'm like, like the kid from Florida State, DJ. I don't even know, I want to say his name wrong.
DJ, yeah.
But for 252, he was a kid that was supposed to be the best in the world, and then look where he's fallen. They have him at 366, which is free
That was
agent.
like third school or something like that. Like he's been
Yeah.
bad at like 3,
Yeah.
4 different schools.
I feel like that's that I'm a leave a kid. I feel like he's going to end up that way, like Tennessee,
agree.
UCLA,
Yeah.
and then he's
Nico.
going to go somewhere else.
He's going to find out what a real offense is like, and then
Yep. But like DJ Ugugule, he's a name that I know. I don't know if everybody would be okay with it, but his size to me fits what Kevin O'Connell can do. Again, thinking about Josh Dobbs, I always go back to that. Kevin O'Connell, I feel like can get a lot out of a little. But no, there's no out of the rookies right now. There's no like undrafted name that's like, oh, we got to go get this guy. But I think if you do get one of those famous names from like early college years, and then they didn't really do much as of late and they fail.
It does sound like a Vikings move, right?
Yeah.
To grab like a 5-star or whatever, be like, hey, 4 different colleges got it wrong. We could figure this out.
And I mean, and it just becomes the backup, and who knows, like,
Yeah.
but you do need an athletic guy in this offense too. And that's why some of those names I named, like Max Brosmer I wouldn't put him in the athletic category, but those other guys, I feel like could fit. So, but no, I don't know if there's a name that the fans are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe we got that guy. The football heads would that know the 5 stars, but yeah.
I just looked up when JJ McCarthy is up for his 5th-year option. He will be younger than Tyler Shuck is now. So
wow,
Incredible.
Graham
I like
Mertz,
what
like
Jake said in the chat about Kyle McCord and JJ McCarthy and the history that those two have. It would be incredibly funny for Kyle.
That
McCord
would be
to end up
so
backing up
funny.
JJ McCarthy.
Well, either him or Will Howard. Both of those are extremely funny scenarios to bring to the table.
If you're unfamiliar, Ohio State had promised a spot to JJ McCarthy, but then went for Kyle McCord, and in an act of betrayal. And JJ McCarthy had was on the warpath against Ohio State, went 3-0 against him in college. So it'd be pretty poetic.
Choice words too. So.
I forgot Will Howard was coming out. I didn't realize he was coming out. I forgot he was an older guy. So yeah. He's got size, and that's what I say. Will Howard is 6'4". I could see that. National champion. My offensive guard, and Sam, you already knew that. That's who I went from Ohio State. Like I like those Big Ten guys.
Well, let me just real quick ask you this: Ariante Ursary, Gophers left tackle. You know him better than anybody.
Best tackle in the draft.
Could he be
the
guy that we get a little bit of both of? We were talking about, okay, we're going to grab a guy for depth. You're like, I don't want to grab a guy for depth. I want somebody impact. Could he play guard? Because I have not heard him.
No, so I asked Brian Callahan that question, his coach. He's been a tackle his whole life. I even asked Ariante. I interviewed him, and we kind of talked off camera about that. And he's been a tackle his whole life. Like the thing is, the reason why people thought that, and again, who knows? There's mad scientists out there. He's fast, and so if you saw the interview when I interviewed him on the Ron Johnson show, he talked about when he was smaller, when he was with me and Sam. And when he was smaller, when he first came into college football, he was fast because he was smaller. And then he started gaining weight, and puberty takes over. You get bigger and bigger. Food starts to happen, muscles. When he got bigger, he started trying to be this bully, and just put hands on people. And then Brian Callahan reminded him, like, dude, you're still fast. Like, be fast. Like, take your big body and move fast. Just get in front of the guy and then maul the crap out of him. And what you started to notice, which, I mean, you're seeing a lot of, like, Todd McShay and a lot of these people starting to talk about, Ariante Ursary is one of the top 3 tackles in this draft and might end up being the best out of the group, is because of his feet. Watch his feet when you watch film. He moves quick for a guy his size. And so he's not a reach guy. So the scissor, forgot what they call it, but the side scissor, like, defensive move they do, like that's the Aiden Hutchinson does it, TJ Watt does it, and it's basically just like a turn side, and Jonathan Gennard tries to work it. Watch Ariante Ursary deal with the side scissor move. Like when they straight arm or try to sideway, he shuffles back in front like a basketball player. And he was a hooper too. I asked him that question. And so he has that footwork, and that's why a lot of people are like, man, this kid's not just big, he's quick. So he doesn't get beat on that secondary move because he can counter it with quick footwork. And so Brian Callahan kind of reminded him that, I think he said his junior year. And so he started playing quick. Even though he's huge, he's like, I'm still quick. I can still move. So yeah, I don't know if he would go to guard because he's so quick. And they're like, hey, we'll draft you in the first round. Will you play guard for us? Not saying he can't, but he is an offensive tackle. Like he said, he's been an offensive tackle. Brian Callahan said ever since they recruited him, he was an offensive tackle. There was never a question to put him at guard. There was like a conversation back when PJ Fleck didn't know who his 5 offensive linemen were because he had 7. But that never was actually going to happen. Ariante Ursary has been a tackle, so I don't know. I don't think he can. He's what, 6'6", 330?
6'6", 330, ran a 501.
Yeah.
33 plus inch arms. I don't see him at guard.
But again, so at pick 24, even though you're thinking, all right, we can't even start him at guard during training camp just to get him on the field, get him.
Because Brian O'Neill's not a guard, right? He's never played guard, or has he?
No.
He's not moving.
But Darisaw might be still rehabbing those first couple weeks coming back, and it'd be nice to have some insurance. But you're saying, even though you love the prospect,
because he's a future, he's a starter in the NFL, or maybe week 2 or 3 starter in the NFL. Like I don't see you doing that as a just let's stack.
It's an important position though.
But if you can get a guard there, like the kid from Ohio State, Donovan Jackson,
Donovan Jackson,
6'4", 315. Tyler Smith comparison is what a lot of NFL scouts are saying for him. He's a starter from the start, they're saying. I don't see why not. Again, the Big Ten offensive linemen tend to be pretty smart when you think about Michigan offensive linemen. Ohio State is right up there. And that's why, and their offensive players as a whole have gone to the NFL and done pretty well. I mean, even Justin Fields, we can make fun of him, but he hasn't done too bad. So I'd say, I like Donovan Jackson there in that spot if that's what they want to go. And they might be able to trade back and still get him at 32, because of where he's.
Yeah, I mean, I see him going early second, 40, his latest 40, 45, something like that.
And that's what I'm saying. If that's the guy you want and you've scouted him, I know he's a name they've looked at. If it works for Kwesi to stick back and get him at 40, get him at 38, and you can, stack maybe another. Now you get a second round pick and you got a second and a third now for that first round.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
1 week from today, Ron goes into his crystal ball and tells us who the Vikings will take. He tipped the J.J. McCarthy pick months in advance last year. So that's a tall mountain to climb again. We'll see if he can nail it a second year in a row. Ron,
a dead clock is wrong twice a day.
Very humble of you. Ron, at 3 Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show. We will talk to you next week. Can't wait. Good stuff. We got a puppy as well, making some noise. Quick pause, then we'll come back. I want to ask you quickly about Mikael Williams and then quickly about Jalen Ramsey. That's next. All right, we're brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. If you're a small business owner, you get it. The work's not done when the clock hits 5. The business is always on your mind when you wake up, when you go to sleep, and when it's time to hire. You need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in, because when you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. They make it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, get qualified candidates. It's all in one place. One-stop shop with the Post Your Job tool from LinkedIn. They help you write job descriptions and quickly get your job in front of the right people. If you take this tip, add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture, you double your reach to qualified candidates. 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL, linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I need a minute or two on Mikael Williams. Wanted to get to him as an edge out of Georgia. I wrote his name down. I wanted your take. Inman, Arif Braun, whoever studied him. Kind of an all-upside guy, right? He's had some injuries, but he produced while playing only 300 snaps a year. What do we think of him? If he fell, would you be intrigued by Mikael?
I would be intrigued, but I think I would ultimately pass on him or try to entice a team to trade up for him, just because I don't see a role for him on the team in the same way that there are roles for Dallas Turner, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. He's a very good player. I don't want to but I think that primarily you play him. I mean, he played a lot of over the tackle 4-5 technique type stuff. Very good run defender, very athletic, very strong, converts speed to power. So there's a role for him in a lot of teams. And I think that he can be a really good run first guy, but who's the guy the Jets took? Jermaine Johnson. I think he more reminds me of the path that if Jermaine Johnson had turned out the way the Jets had wanted him to, where you would end up, where it's like, yeah, he'll probably get you 8, 9, 10, maybe hopefully 12 sacks a year, but closer to 8, 9. And then he'll be a really plus run defender, which is super valuable. But I don't think that there's a role for him on the Vikings, given how much they want these guys to be out wide or drop into coverage or do a lot of other things that require a little bit more athleticism. Like, he did stunts and twists at Georgia. I don't think that that's his role in the NFL. I think that he's an inside out guy.
He is a fun guy for somebody. I will say that 6'5", huge frame, long arms, very athletic. In the Viking system, though, to Arif's point, like it's a little bit more of a project how Flores would use him, and it wasn't always used like that at Georgia. So good player for somebody, but I agree, maybe not the most ideal fit.
And I love being wrong about what Flores.
I mean, he could probably make it work. So, we shouldn't bet against him, right? But.
With Flores, I feel like what we learned about what he does is like a lot of that has to do with the players he inherited. Like, I don't know, part of the like safety thing I had is like, I don't know if he's looking for a Cam Bynum replacement. I think he's looking for a safety that he likes. And the role he had Cam Bynum play was for Cam Bynum. If Josh Metellus leaves, I don't think they look for another Josh Metellus. They made that for him because that was his skill set. So if they end up with Mikael Williams because Brian Flores has this really cool idea for what he's going to do with him,
right?
That we haven't seen in this defense yet, then I'd be definitely open to that idea. I still think, taking an edge in the first round probably means you're just done with Dallas Turner after a year, which would be surprising to me.
Yeah.
Because I thought he came along pretty well at the end of the year.
But last one, Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins negotiating a trade. He's got an awful contract.
With what? Like, what are the Vikings trading? They don't.
Well, they're getting a pick, right? Take the contract.
Well, one of my
contract is so bad that it's not going to cost much.
Yeah, it won't cost much. The Vikings need the most washed corner alive. It's either Jalen Ramsey or Jair Alexander must be in Minnesota by the end of the offseason.
Yeah, no, that's true. Fulfill the
Ramsey
prophecy.
toast. He's officially toast.
I don't think Ramsey's toast.
He's not bad. He's just not Jalen Ramsey.
It's perfect. It's or Stephon Gilmore returns.
Right? Yeah.
You need someone.
So Jalen Ramsey's another defensive player of the year, right? Like I think he won it one year, maybe not.
Stephon Gilmore did, yeah.
But it's just like because you mentioned Trey White last episode, like just stack all these former defensive player of the years and like don't look up what year they won that.
Oh, Trey White was not a serious idea.
That was so funny though.
Yeah, but it could happen.
Would the success of Patrick Peterson and Stephon Gilmore, though, lead this group to believe they actually are fine getting the most washed corner alive? I feel like there's more support for it.
I'm glad you're embracing the terminology, Sam.
Yeah,
I don't know that like they're like learning hard, fast. Like I think they trust their process, and the process is like we think that we can get a little bit more out of this guy, and not. Hey, another old corner? Well, we've done so well with that. I think they'll evaluate every one of them on a case-by-case basis.
Let's also consider the Vikings leverage themselves pretty far financially in 2026. Let me demonstrate. So this is the old spot.
Oh, look at this.
Cap space.
Oh, you can pull that up? Wow.
There's the Chargers.
Stream technology.
Gorgeous.
Must be. Let me get rid of that. Okay. It must be nice to be the Chargers, 172 million. Must be nice.
I'm sure they're
everybody.
happy about that.
That's indicative of other problems. Oh yeah, there we
when
go.
You're below the Saints on the cap sheet.
Yeah,
not a great place to be. Now, there are probably about 4 ways the Vikings can snap their fingers and clear $30 million.
Yes,
but it does preclude you a little bit from being in a bidding war for a Jalen Ramsey, who is going to cost 25, 28, 36 million against the cap for the next 3 years after this year at ages 32, 33, 34.
Sam, when you listed those numbers, it sounded like you were guessing and made them up. I know that you weren't guessing and weren't making them up, but the attitude with which you said those words was just like, oh, I don't know, 35, 36 million? Who's to say?
The best actors, it's acting without acting, right? I mean, you're disguising the technique. as Jason Alexander would say. Luke,
Right.
I know you got that.
I got that.
It's a small book, thin book here.
More of a brochure. All right, so we're out on Jalen Ramsey, it sounds like. Nobody's ponying up.
Also,
Also,
Sam, did
too,
you
I
see
mean,
Nobody would be
number-
excited about the idea. It
But
just feels like something they would do.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you see the number of players that were under contract with the Vikings on it? It was like less than anyone else, too.
I was just gonna say, like that
fewest
number
number of
is
players.
scary and daunting, and people are gonna be petrified of that. But like, we don't have any needs even going into next year. Like, granted,
Yeah.
there will be somebody, but like
The
I mean,
most
the
important
core
player that's
nucleus
scheduled.
of the roster is set.
Yeah, the most important pending free agent is probably Ivan Pace, who can be tendered, and the next most important pending free agent is literally CJ Ham
Oh, well, that's free money.
Is this after
Yeah.
26 or after 25?
for the 2026 offseason where they have no money. Yeah,
Right. Van Ginkel, though. I think Van Ginkel would be the number one free agent. Right?
I keep forgetting because he doesn't show up on the thing because he's a void.
Because
Yeah,
the Void, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
the void
But-
years got me.
Most of the core.
The Void just got
Most of the
contract,
core.
right? Like,
Right.
if
Which,
you're-
by the way, the Dallas Turner pick implies that they're probably okay with letting him walk and then letting Turner take over, assuming he doesn't.
I would also
Yeah.
say
Plateau.
Metellus. Have they extended Metellus?
That's probably not going to still be true.
Yeah.
According
Yeah,
to like
who?
all the local beat that an extension and big pay raise for Metellus is coming.
All right,
James Kuna in the chat is saying that you also forgot about Brian O'Neill, Luke.
Yeah, same void years thing.
So,
happened to me.
so he just forgot
come
about
on,
Josh
man.
Forgot
Metellus,
like 3
Andrew Van
guys.
Ginkel, and Brian O'Neill.
End the show.
All
I'm done.
minor characters on this team.
These,
characters.
these contract details are how you can have a daily show, Luke. Come on.
I've never done a podcast. I've never talked about that.
Locked On Vikings, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Find our audio there. Locked On Vikings podcast feed. We're in like the little guest room that Luke has. He throws together and puts some sheets on the bed, couple really hard pillows. That's where the Minnesota Football Party lives on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. Thank you for watching, listening, commenting, and subscribing. We'll be back Monday. Oh, we've got to have a plan for Luke Braun for his day 3 broadcast. I guess it waits till Monday. Monday we unveil it. How that's going to go down, because he'll be broadcasting live all throughout day 3 of the draft, his betting punishment. That's Monday. We'll talk about it then, and we'll talk to you then on the Minnesota Football Party. Thank you.